When strict business tycoon Victor Reynolds forbids his 12-year-old son, Ethan, from chasing his secret passion for swimming, Ethan embarks on a hidden journey to conquer his fear of water. Guided by gentle former champion Claire Hudson, he risks everything to transform his trembling heart into courage. Witness a tale of defiance, hope, and the power of family bonds that will leave you inspired and wanting more. Don't miss out. Trust me, you won't believe how this ends. But before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Victor Reynolds is a highly successful businessman who owns a chain of upscale hotels across the country. Rising from humble beginnings through tireless effort, Victor firmly believes that true success is achieved only when one devotes oneself entirely to practical and worthwhile pursuits. Accordingly, he has always envisioned his 12-year-old son, Ethan Reynolds, following in the family business, learning to manage assets and invest wisely, rather than wasting time on pursuits he deems futile. Yet what Victor remains unaware of is that Ethan harbors a deep and unspoken desire, a yearning he has never dared to share with his father, to learn how to swim. There is, however, one major problem. Ethan is terribly afraid of water. This fear was seeded when Ethan was merely 6 years old. During a family picnic by a river, he witnessed another young boy nearly drown. Although the boy was eventually rescued, that harrowing moment was indelibly etched into Ethan's heart, evolving into a persistent phobia that has haunted him for many years. Ever since, even the mere proximity of a swimming pool or the vast expanse of the sea sends his heart racing, his limbs stiffening, as dreadful memories come flooding back. Deep within, however, Ethan has always longed to swim freely like others, to feel unburdened by fear. He does not want this terror to govern his life. He wishes to overcome it, to experience the liberating sensation of gliding through cool blue water, to splash and play under the brilliant summer sun. Yet, how can he pursue this dream when his only guardian, his father, firmly opposes it? Victor is a practical man. He sees activities like swimming merely as temporary hobbies that offer no tangible benefits for the future. On numerous occasions, he has advised Ethan to devote his time to business skills or cerebral sports like chess, rather than engaging in physical pursuits. Consequently, Ethan has never dared to ask his father for permission to learn to swim. The Reynolds family resides in a luxurious mansion on the outskirts of the city, complete with a sprawling garden and a magnificent private swimming pool. Yet, to Ethan, that pool feels like a forbidden territory, a place where conflicting emotions swirl, a blend of yearning, fear, and the heavy pressure of his father's expectations. Beyond Victor and Ethan, there is also Claire Hudson, the family's longtime housekeeper, who has served them faithfully for a decade. Claire is a gentle, caring, and devoted woman who loves Ethan as if he were her own child. Few know, however, that before she became a housekeeper, Claire was once a professional swimmer of considerable talent. A severe injury forced her to abandon her promising athletic career, leading her to the path she now follows. Yet, her passion for swimming has never dimmed. Ethan feels an innate closeness to Claire, more than he does to anyone else in the household. He confides in her about almost everything, except his secret desire to learn how to swim. He fears that if he reveals his dream, she might tell his father, and he would never again have the chance to touch the water. What Ethan does not realize is that Claire has long noticed the way his eyes linger by the pool every time he passes by. One sweltering summer day, as Ethan sat curled up on a bench near the pool, his gaze silently following the ripples on the water's surface, Claire approached him gently and asked, "Ethan, do you like to swim?" Startled and unsure of how to answer, Ethan stammered, I don't know. Claire smiled with understanding. She did not press him to speak, yet there was a patient, expectant look in her eyes. Ethan sensed that she had, in some way, discerned the secret longing in his heart, a realization that both comforted and troubled him. As the summer breezes continued to caress the garden, causing the water's surface to shimmer with gentle ripples, Ethan's heart seemed to beat in time with those undulating waves. Was he truly brave enough to leave the safety of his familiar confines and face his deepest fear? In that poignant moment, the journey to conquer the water began for Ethan, not merely a quest to learn swimming, but a battle against the inner demons of fear and the constraints of long-held prejudices. The secret journey to learning to swim. One day, quite by accident, Ethan discovered that Claire Hudson, the longtime housekeeper of his family, had once been a professional swimmer. Upon learning of Ethan's secret longing, Claire agreed to teach him how to swim, all kept hidden away from the rest of the household. Under Claire's gentle and patient guidance, Ethan slowly began to familiarize himself with the water. At first, he could only dare to dip his toes into the pool. Yet, with Claire's constant encouragement, he gradually learned how to relax and control his breathing. Every evening, after his daily lessons, the young boy would sneak out to the secluded backyard pool to practice. Those early sessions were exceedingly difficult. The terror that haunted Ethan made it nearly impossible for him to let go and relax in the water. Still, Claire persisted, patiently guiding him and sharing inspiring stories of renowned swimmers who had overcome similar challenges. Slowly, Ethan began to trust in his own abilities. One of the greatest challenges for Ethan was the underwater breath-holding exercise. Every time the water enveloped his face, panic threatened to overwhelm him. Claire, with a soothing tone, taught him to breathe slowly and deliberately. Take a deep breath, stay calm, and exhale slowly, she would gently remind him. After many attempts, Ethan gradually began to master his breath, feeling a small but significant victory each time. Once Ethan grew more comfortable in the water, Claire introduced him to the basic strokes, kicking his legs, moving his arms, and finding balance on the surface. Initially, he was clumsy and repeatedly found himself sinking. Yet, Claire never lost hope. She continuously encouraged him to try again. Swimming is not just about technique, it's about the mind too. You must believe that you can do it, she said with a tender firmness. As days turned into weeks, Ethan's progress became evident. He soon managed to float on the surface for several minutes and even swam short distances. Each small success felt to him like conquering a monumental challenge. Claire's eyes shone with pride as she observed his achievements. "You've truly overcome yourself, Ethan," she affirmed warmly. However, learning to swim in secret was never without its difficulties. On one occasion, while practicing, Ethan heard distant footsteps. In a surge of fear, both he and Claire hastily left the pool, their hearts pounding in unison. Fortunately, it turned out to be nothing more than a staff member inadvertently passing by. Yet from that moment on, Ethan became even more cautious, determined that his secret must remain hidden. Another formidable challenge arose when Claire asked Ethan to swim in the deeper end of the pool. "Are you ready?" she inquired softly. But Ethan hesitated. Standing at the water's edge, he stared down into the vast, deep blue, his heart thundering in his chest. "If you never try, you'll never know just how far you can go," Claire encouraged him. After a long internal struggle, Ethan took a deep breath and leaped into the water. At first, he flailed in panic, but he soon recalled Claire's teachings. Steadying himself, he began to kick and paddle, and suddenly, He was swimming. A wave of serenity and freedom washed over him. With each passing day, Ethan grew more confident. The pool, once a place of dread, became a realm where he could confront and overcome his fears. He learned not only to swim, but also to trust in his own strength. Yet, one question lingered. Could this secret ever remain hidden? One day, while Ethan was immersed in his practice, Victor appeared unexpectedly. Conflict and turning point. On a sweltering summer afternoon, as the last rays of sunlight gradually bathed the expansive Reynolds family garden, Ethan was secretly practicing his swimming by the backyard pool. His heart raced with both excitement and anxiety, for he knew he was hiding everything. Having just successfully completed a challenging swim in the deep end, he felt the liberating embrace of the cool water, an embrace that made him believe he was finally breaking free of the chains of fear that had long held him captive. However, this brief moment of joy was shattered when the sound of heavy footsteps echoed from the hallway. Victor, Ethan's father, appeared unexpectedly at the very scene Ethan had so carefully concealed. Victor's eyes flashed with a cold, piercing light, filled with disappointment and anger. The realization of being discovered made Ethan's heart feel as if it might shatter, and he hurriedly scrambled to the pool's edge, his face streaked with tears. "Ethan, what are you doing?" Victor's voice boomed, as cold and unforgiving as steel. His words were not a mere inquiry, but an accusation that filled the young boy with overwhelming guilt. At that moment, Claire, the family's devoted housekeeper and Ethan's secret swimming mentor, stood silently behind him, her eyes full of worry, yet determined to remain calm. Victor moved closer, his gaze shifting from Ethan to Claire. "Claire, you've been teaching this boy to swim. You know very well that my family does not tolerate such impractical pursuits," he thundered, his tone heavy with anger and deep disappointment. His stern disapproval made Ethan feel as if the very world around him were collapsing. Ethan tried to explain, "Dad, I wanted to overcome my fear. I want to be as free as the water." But his words were drowned out by Victor's rising fury. Victor insisted that learning to swim was both pointless and dangerous, especially for a child like Ethan. "You will never grow into a man in this family if you indulge in such frivolous pursuits. You must focus on what truly matters, not waste your time learning to swim," he declared, his voice growing ever more tense. Meanwhile, Claire stood there with a sorrowful yet resolute look in her eyes. "Sir, swimming is more than a mere sport. It develops the body, nourishes the spirit, and teaches one to transcend personal limits. I have truly seen Ethan grow more confident with each lesson," she said gently, her words imbued with a quiet yet powerful emotion. The confrontation between Victor and Claire escalated, leaving Ethan caught in the crossfire. He felt isolated and misunderstood, as if no one could grasp the depth of his dreams or the intensity of his fears. In that moment, he felt like a helpless child, torn between his desire for freedom and his father's unyielding strictness. He looked up at his father's unyielding gaze and then lowered his eyes, overcome with sorrow and too afraid to speak. With an expression as hard as stone, Victor declared that Ethan was to cease his swimming lessons immediately and ordered Claire not to encourage any such pursuits. "I have made my decision. From now on, you are not to swim. Claire, your duty is to assist this family, not to teach a child such foolishness," he stated, his words carrying the full weight of a stern and uncompromising father. After the confrontation, Ethan felt crushed by despair and disappointment. He turned away, silently weeping in the soft glow of the setting sun, his tears mingling with the thin mist that hovered on his face. He felt betrayed on two fronts: by his father, in whom he had always placed his trust, and by himself for daring to dream of something beyond the confines of family expectations. Claire, too, bore her own pain. She knew that if Victor were to fully learn of this secret, her livelihood might be at risk. Yet, deep in her heart, she felt an obligation toward Ethan, a child valiantly struggling against his fears, who desperately needed support. Determined, she vowed not to abandon him, no matter how difficult the road ahead might be. That night, after the storm of emotions had subsided, Victor sat alone in the living room with a vacant expression, lost in thought as he tried to make sense of the day's events. A mix of discontent, anger, and a creeping sense of worry slowly permeated his mind. Had he, in his rigid ways, failed to recognize the precious qualities within his son, the passion and the yearning to overcome fear? This question haunted him, though he dared not admit it aloud. The next morning, in the tense atmosphere of the Reynolds household, Ethan said nothing. He moved quietly through the day, each step a silent testament to the sorrow he carried within. Meanwhile, Claire approached him gently, saying, "Ethan, don't be discouraged. You can overcome anything if you believe in yourself. You are not alone." Her words, soft and compassionate, served as a soothing balm to the tender heart of the boy. The turning point came when, during a moment of quiet reflection, Victor began to notice subtle changes in his son. In his furtive observations, he saw that Ethan was no longer the timid, trembling child he once knew. Rather, the boy was beginning to show signs of resilience, daring to face his deep-seated fears. This transformation left Victor feeling conflicted, as he was not yet ready to discard the rigid prejudices of his past. Later that afternoon, when Victor unexpectedly ventured into the garden, he witnessed Ethan practicing swimming alone. Though the boy appeared exhausted and traces of tears still glistened on his cheeks, there was a steadfast determination in his eyes, a refusal to give up. This sight struck Victor like a revelation, compelling him to question whether he had been too harsh in imposing his will upon his son. Finally, in that very moment, the true turning point occurred. Victor could no longer bear to see his son struggle so valiantly against his long-held fears. His hardened demeanor began to soften, giving way to a tender concern. Despite the lingering inner conflicts, Victor resolved that he must at least allow Ethan the chance to prove himself, even if that meant walking a path different from what he had always envisioned. With this resolve, Victor turned to Claire and said, "I will allow Ethan to continue, but only under my close supervision. I must be certain that he is safe and not harming himself." In that moment, his command transformed from a harsh prohibition into a challenge, a chance for Ethan to demonstrate his true potential. And so, the relationship between father and son began to change, a subtle yet meaningful turning point that opened the door to a new future, one in which Ethan's passion and courage might finally be celebrated rather than denied. The competition and Ethan's triumph time passed, and after many days of secretly practicing under Claire's gentle guidance, Ethan slowly began to regain his self-confidence. His secret journey to learn to swim remained a closely guarded mystery within the walls of the Reynolds household. Then, one day, Ethan's school announced an inter-class swimming competition, an opportunity he had always dreamed of. It was his chance to prove that he could conquer his fear and affirm himself in front of friends and even his own father. At first, Ethan hesitated to sign up for the competition. He knew that his rival, Jake Mitchell, had won several competitions in a row. Jake was not only quick and agile, but also exuded a confidence that earned the admiration of his peers. However, deep within his heart, Ethan understood that he could no longer allow fear to rule his life. Through careful practice, interwoven with moments of both failure and success, he had gradually built the self-assurance he longed to share with the world, especially with his stern, unyielding father. When Ethan finally decided to enter the contest, he discreetly registered under his class's list. That decision ignited a flame of determination within him. In the days leading up to the competition, he spent nearly every spare moment training at the private pool in his family's backyard, a sanctuary where no one would discover his secret pursuit. Even without the direct supervision or support of Claire, Ethan reassured himself that every lesson she had imparted would remain with him as a silent, faithful companion. The day of the contest arrived amid an atmosphere filled with the excitement of friends, teachers, and proud parents. Before a crowded stands, with the sun's rays dancing upon the clear, shimmering water, Ethan stood at the starting line, with his heart pounding fiercely. In that instant, he felt the weight of all his hard work, the sweat, the fear, and the hope of being free to express himself. He recalled Claire's words, "Remember, swimming is not just about technique, it's about believing in yourself. When you feel the rhythm of the water, you will find a way to overcome any obstacle." The competition began with the sound of a whistle. Jake Mitchell, brimming with his usual confidence, surged ahead with smooth, powerful strokes. Although Ethan started off somewhat slowly, he gradually merged into the flow of the race. He focused intently on controlling his breathing and executing every stroke he had painstakingly practiced. Each lap was a small victory over the fear that had once gripped him. Each beat of his heart was a reaffirmation of his inner strength. Throughout the race, Ethan encountered numerous challenges. There were moments when his pace faltered, when he felt his breath come up short and his legs grew weary. Yet, whenever he nearly succumbed to despair, he remembered those quiet, secret lessons by the pool and Claire's gentle encouragement. With renewed determination, he pushed forward, inch by inch, refusing to let doubt take hold. In the final stretch of the competition, as the gap between Ethan and Jake Mitchell steadily narrowed, the entire crowd seemed to hold its breath. The intense, suspenseful moments stretched out, and time itself appeared to slow down. Ethan became acutely aware of every droplet of water gliding over his skin and every gentle breeze caressing his face, a harmonious symphony that filled the arena with raw emotion. Finally, as the final whistle blew and the results were announced, it was revealed that although Jake Mitchell had won by a few seconds, Ethan had earned a special award for his artistic expression and the indomitable spirit he had shown in overcoming his limits. In that profound moment, even though he was not crowned the overall champion, Ethan felt as though he had triumphed over his very self. Tears of joy mingled with pride on his cheeks as he realized that he had proven what he had always believed, that fear can be conquered through perseverance and passion. In the stands, his father, Victor, despite the lingering conflicts in his mind, now wore eyes glistening with a newfound pride and understanding. He was no longer the harsh critic he once was, but a man beginning to recognize the true value of passion and courage in his son. After the contest, during the award ceremony, when Ethan stepped up to receive the Spirit of Overcoming Limits award with a radiant smile, the whole room seemed to light up with pride. Friends, teachers, and classmates applauded enthusiastically, a testament that his effort and bravery had not gone unnoticed. This victory was more than a win in a swimming contest. It was a triumph of faith, a celebration of never giving up on one's dreams, no matter how daunting the challenge. As the event concluded, Ethan emerged from the pool with a heart brimming with exhilaration and a renewed belief in himself. Though he had not taken first place, he had shattered the shackles of a lifelong fear and demonstrated that with determination and sincere support, no boundary is insurmountable. His triumph was not solely his own. It stood as living proof of the quiet love and steadfast encouragement of Claire, the one who helped him dare to dream and soar high. A warm, happy ending. After the swimming competition, it seemed that change was slowly beginning to blossom within the Reynolds household. Although Ethan had not secured the overall first prize, his victory, one of courage and the relentless determination to conquer his deepest fears, radiated a new warmth throughout the home. In that moment, as the young boy emerged from the pool, with the Spirit of Overcoming Limits medal gently adorning his neck, the air around him was filled with pride and understanding. Victor stood in the stands, his once stern and unyielding gaze softening with each passing second. In that look, he saw his son, not the trembling, timid child who once shuddered at the mere thought of water, but a young man now brimming with confidence and resolve. It was a moment that made him wonder, have I been too harsh, insisting that my son follow the narrow path I had set for him? That thought slowly crept into Victor's mind, leading him to realize that Ethan's true worth was not measured solely by numbers or business profits, but by his ability to overcome personal challenges. That very evening, after a quiet family dinner, laden with unspoken emotions, Victor sat down beside Ethan in the living room. Bathed in the gentle glow of warm lights and the soft strains of music, the atmosphere turned intimate, allowing Victor to summon the courage to open his heart. "Ethan," he began in a deep, mellow tone that no longer carried any of its former harshness, "I have thought long and hard about today. I now understand that you have your own passion, and I am immensely proud that you dared to face your fear." Ethan looked up, his eyes still glistening with unshed tears, but shining with relief. "I've always wanted to swim, Dad. I don't want to live just the way you expect me to. I want to explore, to push past my limits on my own," he said, his words sincere and heartfelt. Those words seemed to lift a weight from Victor's heart, freeing him from the bonds of old expectations. Beside them, Claire, the gentle soul who had so quietly nurtured and guided Ethan, offered a tender smile as she looked on at the father and son. Each person has their own passion, and it is that passion that helps us grow. Ethan has shown us that faith and perseverance can overcome any fear. I believe that from now on, our family will support and journey alongside your dreams," she softly assured. Her words resonated deeply with Victor. Gradually, he came to understand that the love of a father is not about dictating or controlling, but about listening, empathizing, and encouraging a child to pursue his own dreams. In Victor's eyes now shone a genuine pride as he witnessed his son daring to dream and boldly surpassing his own limitations. From that day forward, the atmosphere in the Reynolds household grew noticeably warmer and more relaxed. Victor began spending more time with Ethan, taking leisurely strolls around the pool, engaging in long, thoughtful conversations late into the night about the future. With his passion for swimming finally acknowledged, Ethan no longer felt confined by rigid expectations. Instead, he walked confidently down the path he had chosen for himself. In the end, the conclusion of this story was not merely a triumph in a swimming contest. It was a victory for family love, It was a celebration of breaking down barriers, where each member was free to pursue their passion, respected and cherished in their own unique way. The Reynolds family had learned an invaluable lesson, that genuine love and steadfast support are the keys to unlocking true growth and lasting happiness. Subscribe to the channel, share the video, and please leave your thoughts on the message I want to convey.
If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe Undercover Insights channel.